Let's talk about what it means to have a relaxed erection, to have relaxed arousal, why it is so powerful when we train and reprogram our body to work in this way, and a few of the very simple ways to do this. The beautiful thing about this, it's very powerful, it's very far reaching, it's very fundamental, really, to this whole journey of really transforming and healing and expanding our sexuality, but it is pretty simple. So let's talk about it. So the first thing we need to do is understand what it actually means to have a relaxed erection. We'll start with what it's not, which is where most guys start, where a lot of guys are, and that is that pretty much any time we have an erection, there's some tension in our pelvic floor. There's this squeezing of our pelvic floor that is almost automatically kind of associated for a lot of guys in this way. And if you think about it, very likely if that's been the case, at least at some point in your life, and very likely right now, to some degree, where you have an erection and part of the kind of automatic, instinctive kind of response is your pelvic floor starts to tense up and to squeeze without even really thinking about it. What we want to do is reprogram that and disconnect, in a way, the control of our pelvic floor, and whether it's relaxed or it's clenching, from whether we have an erection or whether we are aroused. Because the other thing, if you tune into it, what you will, I'm certain, feel to some degree is that when you become more and more aroused, you have more of that tendency in your pelvic floor to want to squeeze. And maybe it happens as soon as you get aroused at all, or maybe it kind of pops up more as you get to those really high arousal levels. But either way, there's again kind of that automatic connection. And when we can, through practice and through training, which we'll talk about in a minute, a few very simple things to practice that will help change this for you over time. When we can kind of separate that, where your pelvic floor can stay relaxed, even when you have an erection, even in the beginning stages of getting an erection, when your pelvic floor can stay relaxed, even when you're at those really high arousal levels, it completely transforms your sexual experience, because not only do you last longer, you have more stamina, so you can have deeper experiences, but the energy moves in your body in a different way, because with deep relaxation comes better energy flow. Anytime we have tension in our body, it's going to stagnate energy. It's going to create these kind of blockages and slowdowns of energy. So when we can stay in a very relaxed state, that sexual energy is going to move into the rest of your body, into the rest of your being, much more easily, much more automatically, much more powerfully, which brings all kinds of amazing benefits. So relaxation is a very, very good thing. Here's the thing. We do need to train for this. And actually what we really need to do is retrain or reprogram the kind of automatic responses. Because again, if you tune into it, what you'll likely feel is that it is kind of automatic. You get aroused, your pelvic floor wants to squeeze. You have an erection, or you want to get an erection, and your pelvic floor wants to automatically squeeze. So there's some reprogramming to do. Let's talk about a few very simple ways to do that. The first one is when you're in your edging practice, hopefully you have a mindful edging practice. If that term's new to you, go in the archives, go to Spotify, scroll up to the top of the show page, search edging. You're going to find all kinds of episodes, including various episodes that talk about mindful edging. You can go into all kinds of details on that. In your mindful edging practice, here's a very simple way to start really reprogramming part of this, and that is whether you can have an erection or get an erection while your pelvic floor is still relaxed. And I can tell you that for a lot of guys, what I've heard from, the relaxed erection, where you're fully hard but completely relaxed, is kind of the holy grail. It really is kind of the holy grail, because energetically, everything flows in this different way. Your erection just stays. You can last as long as you want. It is kind of the holy grail. And I've heard that from guys in really passionate tone as they relayed their experiences. So it's very, very cool what happens when we do this. So when you're in your mindful edging practice, here's the thing to do. At the very beginning, when you're going to get an erection, stay relaxed in your pelvic floor the whole time. So if it takes, it will likely take longer. So what you're likely used to is you go to start your edging practice and you're going to squeeze that pelvic floor some number of times, or maybe get into a pattern of really squeezing it a lot in order to kind of get that erection and get into that stimulation part of your edging practice. Let go of that. Just stay relaxed, completely relaxed. No squeezes whatsoever. Stay completely relaxed. Now, one thing to be aware of, it's definitely going to take you, not definitely, most likely, it's going to take you longer to get harder. You may not even get as hard by doing that as you're used to. And eventually you can transition into squeezing, and it doesn't have to completely change your whole edging practice. But if you'll start out at this foundation of being relaxed and starting to stimulate and maintain that relaxation and allow your erection to naturally kind of come up from that arousal, it's really, really big, because that is starting to train your body to understand, oh, okay, I can be erect, I can have an erection or get an erection without needing to squeeze this muscle. That's a huge shift. It's a huge shift. Very simple way to practice it. Again, every day, just start in that relaxed place. It absolutely takes patience, as all good things do. It takes patience. So you're going to have to work through that desire to want to get harder, faster, and get to those higher levels of arousal faster. Stay patient with it, stay relaxed. Start to do this every day, and over the course of the days and the weeks, you're going to really start to reprogram that connection with your body. So that's the first way to train for relaxed erections. The second way is, where is your focus? So your focus is so powerful, so powerful. In fact, your focus is the most powerful thing you have. Is the most powerful thing you have as a human being is your focus. What you're putting your focus on, your awareness on in any moment in time. And where you put your focus, that's where energy is going to flow to. So as I've talked about on many previous episodes in different ways, our focus has a massive impact on our sexuality, because whether it's sexual energy or just any kind of energy, energy is going to flow within us as well as in our life where our awareness is, where our attention and focus is. So what that means is that you can very much impact your ability to stay in this relaxed erection, this relaxed arousal kind of state, by how you impact that energy with your focus. Here's the very simple but very cool way to do this. And this is something I've really only found my way to, let's say, in the last year. Totally transformed in some ways, even 15 years into this journey, how I work with this energy in a very, very simple way. And it is to place your focus on your sacrum. Place your focus on the base of your spine, right? So let's imagine, again, you're in your edging practice. And of course, this translates to sex, but let's, for simplicity's sake, you're in your edging practice. And if your awareness is on your cock, if your awareness is on sort of your sexual center very specifically, what you're going to likely find is that that's going to make that energy build up faster, and you're not going to be able to control it as much. If your awareness is completely somewhere else, and you're just trying to sort of get your mind off it, so to speak, that's going to disconnect you from the moment, and you're not going to be able to go as deep, and you're not going to have the same kind of experience with this energy. If you're just sort of trying to let go and you come back to the breath, that's a great anchor to come back to for sure. But ultimately, what we really want to do is we want to use our attention to decide, okay, I'm getting into this increased energetic state. What do I want to do with that energy? Where do I want to send it as that energy comes up? If I'm sending that energy to the right place, if I'm sending it to that place in an easy, efficient way, then I'm going to be able to stay more relaxed, because the energy is going to be doing what it needs to do, and I can stay in this relaxed state. The sacrum serves as that place, because the sacrum is basically the energetic gateway between your sexual center and the rest of your being, right? That sexual energy goes up your spine, and the sacrum sits at the base of the spine, and it passes through that. So in a lot of ways, it really is kind of the doorway between the two. So by placing your awareness on your sacrum, you're putting it right at that transition point where you're allowing that energy naturally, as it comes up, it's going to want to go to where your focus is, right? And if your focus is on that sacrum, that means it's going to go right there, and it's going to be able to do whatever it kind of needs to do in the moment. It's going to stay in your sexual center. It's going to flow up into the rest of your being, but you're putting it right at that doorway, opening up a space for it and saying, here, go where you need to go to serve me best. And you're doing that very, very simply by just placing your awareness on your sacrum. By the way, where your sacrum is, you don't want to get too hung up on the exact location. Just think about the base of your spine. You can kind of feel into that low back transition point, right, between your back and your butt. It's like kind of back in that area, the coccyx bone, the base of your spine, however you want to think about it. Don't get too hung up on the terminology. Don't get too hung up on the word sacrum. But place your awareness there. What is much more important than the word is how it feels. So practice this and tune into it and just ask and be curious within your own body. What does that feel like? How can I place my awareness kind of on that place? And how does the energy change? So you might be in your edging practice, experiment. Put your focus on your cock, for example, see what happens with the energy, see how it builds up, how it moves, how you can tune into it, how you can control it. Then place your awareness on your sacrum, tune into it. How does it move? How can you control it and work with it? This is all the most unique experience of being human. I think that's one of the most awesome things about sexuality is that if there's anything that is unique about being human, which really everything is, but certainly at a very, very fundamental level, the creative act, the creative force and energy that we have within us is deeply, deeply unique. So the way that you feel into that energy and work with it and find it and go on that adventure with it in your own body, it's going to be unique to you. So all I can really do is kind of give you some tools, some perspectives, and then you get to go on your own journey and find your own answers within your own being, which is a beautiful thing. So the first way to train to have a more relaxed erection and a relaxed arousal and be able to stay in that place is to start your edging practice with relaxation, staying in that relaxed place as long as it takes to get an erection. And you don't absolutely have to lock into that the first time. If you're really not getting an erection, you want to move on with your rest of your edging practice, have some grace with yourself, have patience with this process, but practice that as a start. The second thing is place your awareness, your focus on your sacrum. The more you do that, I promise you, you're very, very likely going to find that you start to feel and tune into and have the ability to work with your sexual energy in a very different way. The last way to really train this is to come back to or start in a place of relaxation when you're at a high arousal level. So starting your edging practice by waiting to get erect and staying in that relaxed pelvic floor the whole time as you start to stimulate until you actually get an erection. That's going to kind of separate and reprogram, okay, I'm erect, therefore I need to squeeze, or I want to get erect, therefore I need to squeeze. That's going to reprogram that part. But we also want to reprogram, I'm at a high arousal level, therefore it wants to squeeze, right? That is the other part that needs to be reprogrammed. So the way to reprogram that is to practice it, right? So you get in your mindful edging practice. As you get into those parts of the practice, you sort of pause for a moment, even just mentally, you pause for a moment, you find that place of relaxation, and then you either continue to stimulate or you start stimulating again, or before you ever kind of get to that high arousal level, from a more moderate arousal level, you find that place of relaxation. Again, there's no exact, this is exactly the moment by moment thing to do. What it is keep in your mind, okay, I want to practice getting to those higher levels of arousal and then being able to maintain a state of relaxation. And ultimately that comes down to just kind of testing yourself and just practicing over and over again. And again, give yourself grace, give yourself patience. None of these changes happen overnight. They will happen though when you stay consistent. They will happen when you keep stacking little bricks, because little bricks build big castles in all the ways, in all the layers. This journey of finding a place of relaxation applies to every layer of our life and will bring so many benefits to every layer of your life. It certainly will bring massive benefits to your sexuality and your sexual experiences. So put this into practice. As always, I appreciate you sharing a few minutes of your day with me. I would love to hear any comments, feedback, experiences in the comments below. Sending you guys good vibes. Have an amazing rest of your day. Talk to you soon.